Hey guys, so I am officially, 4 days? Yes, 4 days post-op. And I just had some thoughts that I honestly wanted to share with you guys. First of all, I'm doing okay. Um, I guess, I guess that okay is it's basically what you tell someone when you're really not doing okay, but you don't really want to get into it. And that's a classic thing that I do. But do you guys ever, those who draw your daily cards, do you ever shuffle the deck and just know what you're gonna get? And then as soon as you flip that card over, you kind of just do that. Take in a breath and slowly nod because you know exactly what it is. You know why it's there and what it's telling you. Now, I'm not saying I do this with every single daily draw that I do. There are several daily draws where I kind of have to fish for what it means. But there's a kitty in my lap. Today was one of those days though where I did just that. And the card that I got for today was the Ten of Swords. Coincidentally, this is also my card for the month. And this whole year, ever since I flipped this card over for my reading, my yearly reading that I do around New Year's, I was sitting here trying to figure out what was going to happen in the summer. Especially because I got the star for the month of July. And I just thought it was strange because the star mostly means hope and reprieve. And I think in the case of last month, it didn't necessarily feel that way, but it was an idea that I was clinging to. And maybe that was predisposed considering. But I honestly think that when you're on the cusp of something, you either let it completely consume you and sink you all the way down to the rock bottom, or sometimes you even kid yourself sitting here thinking everything's going to be okay because you can't stand the thought of it not being. And I think that's maybe what the star meant last month. I was trying for the longest time to try and figure out what the Ten of Swords meant. And ever since Friday, when I had my surgery, I have been hit with a bout of depression, which I've maybe talked a little bit about depression on my channel. It's something that I struggled whether or not to get too personal with, but there's a message that I want to share with you guys that I think might be deeply important for anyone else who has gone through something similar when it comes to chronic illness and having a difficult time loving your body, not even under the lens of chronic illness. I'm sorry, I still have my throat's kind of messed up from the breathing tube and getting over my cold and stuff like that too, so I'm sorry if I constantly clear my throat, but it's what it is. And this is why we have tea. But depression and I are no stranger. I have had depression since I was 14, and oftentimes I can usually feel it coming on, but there are some times where it slams into me like a freaking meteor. And I thought going into this surgery, this is the third time I've done this, I've got this. But for some strange reason, ever since I've had it, I have felt awful emotionally. And while I was processing, I think one of the aspects of it is that I don't let myself really sink into the reality of a chronic illness, having a disease with no cure, and what that entails. The chronic pain, trying to be a stay-at-home mom with chronic pain. It's hard enough to keep, well, I can't. It's hard enough to keep a social life, let alone try and parent 2 young boys. And that all aside, I was doing the thing that you do where you try and keep yourself above float because you can't fathom not being that way. It's just not something you can handle. And what I realized, and what maybe potentially had caused this rift in my mental state, is that when we go through something like this, no matter if it is a rather invasive surgery like laparoscopy, it is still a trauma to your body. And what that does is it causes a disconnect between the mind-body-spirit connection. And I think this is something that we overlook as practicing witches or as practicing pagans. And I know that there are many others out there who struggle with body positivity or simply just loving their body. Hopefully I can speak to you as well. I'm really more coming from this as this is hard for me because I have a chronic illness. And for me, I feel as though my body has betrayed me. And I don't let myself say that very often. But I think that what occurred is I went through this for the 3rd time, and somehow the rift was even more. Somehow it brought about some sort of emotional chaos where I just have been sunk into this reality of, what do I do next? I'm tired. I don't know what else to do. And maybe I would have felt better if I had more reasoning behind it. But these types of things, they don't have reasoning. And I think that's something that we also tend to overlook, is that we always want to logic all of it away. I mean, even us in our spiritual paths, I struggle with that tremendously. I always think, if there's not a logical reason for it, but when we sever, or when we sever, or when that connection is severed, the mind-body-spirit connection, I think it integrates itself and does more damage. It's really weird that I said separation, but integration. But I hope I make sense. The trauma that it causes integrates itself into our psyche and our spirit in ways that we tend to underestimate. And that's something that I've been processing, and it's something that I wanted to share with you all, because I feel like this is something that needs to be called attention to. Where do we go from here? Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip. My throat. Where do we go from here as spiritual people? Where can we turn to the point where we can heal and love this part of ourselves? I, for one, personally have wanted to do womb healing for the longest time, because quite frankly, that has been a part of my body that has been so difficult to love. It has been the source of so much pain and agony and despair. And yet still, somehow, through some miracle that has completely floored my doctors, I've been able to bear children. I don't know how. And I underestimate that miracle as well, because I spend so much time being angry with that part of my body. And I don't want to do that anymore. Especially because eventually this will come to a hysterectomy. Notice how I didn't say end, because endometriosis has no cure. A hysterectomy doesn't cure it. But eventually that's where this will go. And to me, the thought of doing that right now, doing that to my body, it's a grieving process. I'm mourning it. I don't want to do it because I'm just simply not ready to put my body through that and to lose a part of myself that, even though I have spent all this time essentially hating, I still don't want to let it go. And why is that? It's interesting. But where do you go from here when you realize that there is a connection that has been severed between your spirit body and your physical body? And how do you heal it? Let me know, guys. I would really like to know.